Hey everybody, SW here, or Stephanie, or Steph, however you know me as. If you've made it back to this channel, then thank you. This is episode 10 of Glass Skulls, which is super exciting. I have to go off script tonight. I can't follow our usual structure. An important thing is happening tonight. So, there's this organization. It's called To Write Love on Her Arms. I'll talk way more in detail about that later in this story. But I want to make sure I have time to tell the story. So, I was at a music festival last November. They had a merch booth that had To Write Love on Her Arms apparel. I was chatting with the people that were working the merch booth, and they had an activity to complete. This was actually the one that I did. I don't know if it's backwards, like where you are or not. But in case it's backwards, it said, "What's your biggest fear?" And I wrote, "Losing myself to my own hands." And "What's your greatest dream?" Helping people by sharing my story. So I held on to that as a souvenir. But anyway, there's always something interactive going on with To Write Love on Her Arms and them trying to get their messages out and why they're there, what they can do to support people, that kind of thing. So I start getting interviewed by this guy that had this giant camera, and he's like, "Can I just ask you a couple questions?" So we started that way, a couple questions, and very quickly he was like, "Can you wait just a second? I gotta go chat with so-and-so, blah, blah, blah." So I waited, and when he came back, he asked me if I would be interested in flying to Orlando in a couple of weeks to be a part of the first ever 20th anniversary documentary for To Write Love on Her Arms. First of all, it has been one of my life's dreams to somehow, some way, get connected with To Write Love, because I'm a writer and I'm fairly good at that, and I enjoy doing that, and I can write letters to Write Love on Her Arms all day long, but there's millions of people doing that, so it's challenging to stand out. Well, here was my opportunity to stand out. Somebody was like, "Hey, you have a story that's really compelling. I'd like you to be a part of this film, and I'd like you to share your story." So we did end up flying, my husband and I, to Orlando a couple weeks later, and it was quite an experience. Like, I was interviewed for like 3 hours. There were people there that I knew were my heroes. So Renee Yohe and Jamie Twarkowski. I know they weren't there when I was there. They were there later in the week, but still, just knowing that they were going to be on the same film, my life's complete. Like, they're my heroes. They're my biggest heroes. Renee took a picture, because I left them copies of my book. Renee took a picture holding the book, and it got sent to me. Like, that's incredible. And Jamie Twarkowski, he's really interesting because he was the original founder of To Write Love. And along the way, things started to change, and for whatever reason, Jamie decided that he was better served elsewhere, and he kind of wanted to like break away from To Write Love on Her Arms. He's the reason that it exists. He's my biggest hero. There's a book that he wrote called If You Feel Too Much. It was a New York Times bestseller. Highly recommend. One of the best books I've ever read. I probably read it 50 times, no joke. And I'm going to read it 50 more because it's that good. So I have all this this constant buzz feeling of like, oh my goodness, like what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? So we wrap up shooting. I fly back to upstate New York, and I was just kind of told, hey, we'll keep you posted when it's finished. Well, I got that information last week. Tonight is the night that I'm going to get to watch the early premiere documentary. I'm super excited. I have no idea what they did to piece it all together, because it's not like I got to see any of the footage that they took of me, or that I got to see something that was like a screen that showed progress of like different frames of things in the movie. I didn't see any of that. All I did was fork over some pictures from my childhood and tell my honest story. So my story was actually one that was a plan that I shouldn't have made. I had made a plan to jump off of one of the bridges in Disney World, and I was convinced my head would hit a rock and that would be it. It's really scary being somebody who's already survived suicide twice. Like, I think back to that moment, and I don't know, that really could have been me that night, and it's because of Troy Love in her arms that I'm alive. So long story short, I go walking toward the bridge to do what I was going to do, but I happened to see out of the corner of my eye there was a huge line wrapping around the back of the House of Blues Orlando. And I mean, I've gone there for a bunch of different shows. I love music. It's a great venue for it. So I was like, there must be somebody that's on tonight that's going to be really good, because there was not a giant line like that 10 minutes ago, and now there is. So instead of getting onto the bridge, I could not curb my curiosity, and I brought myself over to the ticket counter outside a House of Blues. Boom. My life was saved. And the ticket said "To Write Love" on her arms, which I'm looking at, and I'm like, huh? And then it was called Heavy and Light. There were speakers, there were spoken word poets, there were acoustic guitar players and singers, there were interactive activities like the one I kind of showed you before, and they had lots and lots of merchandise. I have so much of it. I feel like I wear it on my body on purpose, like a billboard, because I want somebody to see it and go, what the hell is that? And go and look it up. Because I'll bet you $1,000,000 that if it doesn't help you, you've got a couple of yous somewhere in your life that it could help. So yeah, I mean, after the show was over, it was so moving. Like, the one woman, she was sharing, and she used to be a cutter, and she had a lot of scars from her cutting, and she wanted to make the point that, you know, like, we're not defined by our scars, and like, your scars could actually be looked at as kind of beautiful because, like, you made it all the way here. So, not saying that it was a good idea to make the scars or that that was the appropriate coping strategy. It's just proof that you made it. Well, she rolled up her sleeve and they zoomed in on it, and she had probably 50 plus lines, like, all just right here. It was just like, that was a shock factor that I had never seen before in my life, because I had previously been a cutter, but it was like I put 3 cuts and then it hits me enough to stop. But I understand that some people are addicted to self-injury. Like, I understand why. I understand the rush you get. Like, it is very similar to like getting a high or something like that. The spoken word poet, he was out of this world. I'm probably gonna butcher his name, but it's Anis Mojgani. It's my best effort at that. His poem is called Shake the Dust. Look him up. It's definitely worth the 5 minutes to listen. He's outstanding. He really blew me away, and he was the guy to start the show, actually. Like, the last words that came out of his mouth were "Welcome to Heavy and Light," and then the whole place went dark. And looking around this place, there were people everywhere, body to body, but nobody appeared to feel anything but at peace. Like, there were people that were emotional and maybe like showing some tears. There were people that, when the woman was rolling up her sleeve, they were rolling up theirs, like holding their hand up, like, look, like, I made it all the way here. Like, you're right. Just because I have these scars doesn't mean anything about me anymore. It maybe meant something once upon a time, but not anymore. So that's pretty much the story in a nutshell. And I'm really, for the record, really glad I did not drown that night. Because I was in the middle of the plan. Like, I started the plan. Yeah. And that's why I feel like, you know, lots of people have different, like, religions that they maybe practice or participate in, or other types of spirituality. There's all kinds of stuff. One time along the way in my life, I think I got to probably like 24, and it hit me that I was like, you know what? Like, my religion is to write love on our arms. And that's because their site always has what kind of feels like a sermon, if you will. Example, the blog posts, they all have really clever titles. It's easy to pick one that might match something that might ring a bell with you. But I read all of them just because I check a lot of boxes, and I love to learn about other people's stories. So yeah, like, on any given day, like, I'd stop and read a few blog posts, and it would make me honestly feel great, even if it was about really heavy topics, because it just was like, these are my people. Like, they're fighting the good fight. Like, I gotta keep fighting the good fight. And so does everybody else that I love that has mental illness. So that, in a nutshell, I think brings us to the end. I hope that everybody has a great rest of their week. Don't forget to hit subscribe or like if you wanted to for this video. And fun fact, I collect rubber ducks. If I counted them right now, I think I have like 32 of them. No lie. Random, I know. All right, guys. Well, next week I'm going to be traveling, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to get creative and try to figure out a way to still shoot an episode and post it, even if I have to do it by the pool. I'll figure it out. All right, so hopefully I will see you next week, and thank you so much for listening to my story. I appreciate it.